Howdy YouTube. We got a little sleepless night going on here, so I'm going to sit down and get a bunch of brass ready and start doing a little bit of reloading. I figured I'd make a little video on how I reload ammunition. We're going to start with our vibrator here, shell casing trimmer. How this works is, if you don't know, you pick up one of these things. I use typically used for media. What I use is I've got some walnut and I've got some corn cob here. The walnut does a better job of cleaning, but it produces a dust that I just don't care for. So I went ahead and I pretty much use corn cob. It doesn't get it quite as clean, but ultimately when it's all said and done, it's close enough, it's good enough for all the reloading you're going to do, and it doesn't have this fine powder that I get out of the walnut. I'm hoping somebody tells me about an additive I can put into the walnut to get the dust down, because I can't handle the dust. You end up having to blow each and every casing out. So all you do is you put your casings in here. I fill it up. I know a lot of people don't. Hold on here. Then you put your handy dandy little lid on. Just my wing nut. Fill it all the way up and turn this thing on. It's kind of noisy. I typically do it when I'm not going to be around for very long. I'll let you hear how noisy it is. Trying to show you what's going to happen inside here. But when you after you run it for, I typically let it run for a day. I'll turn it on when I'm leaving the man cave here, and then I'll come back. See the casings? See the casings rolling through there. But I will typically let that run overnight. When I get my casings, I'll bundle them up in groups of 1,000 or so, usually 100 rounds to a bag, maybe 50. Then we're going to start our reloading process. First thing we need here is your depriming die, sizing die. This is a full-length sizer and deprimer. It'll be the one with the little pin coming out of it. Die set, and I use Lee dies. They'll come with a basic powder measure, one shell holder. I get more. You'll have your depriming die and sizing die. This is a crimp die. It'll have the crimp deal down in there. I never crimp my 223, and that's what I'm loading today's 223. And then this is our bullet seat die. I do everything single stage. I know my reloading bench is a mess. We have purchased that's a Lyman powder thrower, and it does just fine for bulk ammunition. However, you can see it here under my mess, I still hand weigh every load. I know I'll get a lot of people tell me that's stupid, it's way slow. All my shooting is precision, so my shot, I'm worried about my powders being exact as I go. Throw it this way. Guess I should have cleaned up before I started this. It was kind of late. Get my tripod set up here. Get Mr. Camera on here. So the first thing you're going to do is First thing we're going to have to do is put our die back in. When you set up your press, you want the base of the press itself. Be able to see this, we have to zoom in. Okay, you want the base of your shell holder to just come up at bottom at full stroke and just touch the bottom of your die. That ensures that you get a full length size and everything in there correct. From there, this stage, which can kind of be tedious, you take your clean shell. We're going to take the primer out of it and we're going to size the neck and the shoulder. I use this Hornady Unique case lube. I put a little dab on my fingers, get 3 or 4 of my fingers covered in it, and that usually does me for 10 or 15 different bullets until I got to do that again. But this way we knock the primer loose and throw it in our barrel and just go through and size and deprime each one. As you do this, I just kind of smear as I grab it, give a little smear on the round, run it up through the die, and I will do, I typically sit and load, give or take 1,000 at a time. Like I said, I do this the complete tedious way every time. I will actually, when we get into the next stage, I trim every round to length with a case trimmer set. Most everything I use is Lee. I don't have a problem with anybody else's. I started buying Lee a long time ago, and I like trying to keep all my components the same as far as what I use, what I don't use. I know there's a lot of guys out there that really like, excuse me, that really like the the progressive loaders for doing bulk ammunition. When I load, I don't do anything really that I consider just shoot for fun type deal. Everything I shoot with the intentions of hitting exactly where I'm going to aim. I'm sure there'll be a bunch of people at the end of this video tell me I'm nuts for the time I spend on this. As far as single stage and everything and hand weighing each load of powder. But I know, and when I do finally take some of these to range to show you what I'm going to do, how well they shoot. Now, this load I've got worked up for 223 is 22 grains of Vitavora's, which is actually Lapua's powder, of the N135 with the 69 grain Sierra boat tail match hollow point. That is the round I prefer. I found that specific round in this specific load, again, that's 22 grains and 135 with 69 grain Sierra boat tail match hollow point. And show each of those here. Here's the powder I use, Vitavora N135. I've played with a bunch of these. I've probably worked up, oh God, I couldn't tell you how many loads. These are the bullets that I run. They're Sierra 69 grain boat tail match hollow points. It's very important for these rounds to be. This bullet's heavy enough. You need to be running it through a 7 to 9 12, or I'm sorry, 7 to 10 twist barrel. If you don't know how to figure out the twist on your gun, it's usually stamped right on the barrel in front of the front sight post on an AR-15. But I'm gonna go ahead and stop the video here for a moment, and when I get into and deprime a bunch of these, and after I get them deprimed, we'll get into the case trimming part of it. I'm going to do this in stages, part 1, part 2, so on and so forth. Part 2 is going to be trimming the length of the cases. Part 3 will be how I prime. I use a hand priming tool. Look like that. You'll put a casing in here, and not the right size shell holder, but put a casing in there, press a primer up into it, and we'll get to the next stages. Give me a second to get some bullets deprimed here, and we'll move on. Alright, this is the case trimming part. Case trimmer looks like so. You have these deals. Each one of these is exact. These rods is exact length for the caliber you're loading. You'll buy them for 223, 556, 9. I mean, whatever you're going to load, you'll buy one of these. How they work is after it's deprimed, we'll go ahead and we'll put it in our little tool here. This is just a screwdriver handle. It fits in just fine. From here, you take these, slide them in, and you'll rotate it. Now, I've got the right size and the wrong side here. As you can see, with this, I didn't even touch the case of the topping. The top of the casing, excuse me. It's 2 o'clock in the morning right now. So like I said, this is one of my sleepless nights. So anyway, if it doesn't touch and you don't trim it, that's fine. Then you know your length is fine as far as the casing. Like this one's going to trim a little. I don't know if you're going to be able to see, but I'll get a little bit of brass off the top of that casing, and I did on that one, just a little bit. And I don't know if you'll be able to see in the video the shiny edge. Well, that's when you trim that like that, it's going to create a little bit of a burr inside and out. From here, you get your handy dandy little deburring tool, and just run it in the center of this. Take any burrs off that and run it in the top. Around the outside edge, take any burrs off that. You can do several hundred of these at a time. I'll actually take this little part here normally and put it in a drill. Just a little hand drill, which I have the power set down on to where it just barely spins it. So once you do that, you know, I can do a bunch of these pretty quick. I know they make the full-length case trimmer sets. Little drill press looking thing sits on its side. Really see that one got good and shined up. It took a good chunk off of that case, that specific casing there. And I imagine them work well. I mean, just with my reloading, this is my moment of zen time. I sit and I reload ammunition when I'm just bored, or I've got a lot of, got a little bit of free time. My sleepless nights, which I go through every now and then, that's when I really sit down to load. So to me, it doesn't matter if it takes me a bunch more time to do this, because I'm just doing it for A, to have a good bulk of ammunition loaded up, and B, some of my leftover 308, just to have, you know, something to do, and I really enjoy it. It's a good way for me to calm down. I'm going to get my primer machine set up here, and I'll show you how to prime these rounds next. Alright, now we got our priming tool set up. You'll take a shell holder for the type of machine, or I'm sorry, the size die, which there's all kinds of charts and stuff on the internet for what shell holder you need. Shell holder goes in here, like so. With this machine, how you do this is you kind of just rock it back, and it'll put a primer. I don't know if you can see it there. Put a primer up into the channel right there. It'll put a primer up in there. From there, you just kind of slide your shell back into where it goes and press it up in. It's pretty much that simple. It's important to look at each primer and make sure it's not upside down. If you prime one upside down, that's not going to work very well. I've heard old stories that you can actually, if you get one in there cockeyed or sideways, make a primer go off. I've cramped some primers up in hard for whatever reason, and had them in there sideways. I've crushed them. I've just about destroyed them in any way, shape, or form, and I have yet to ever be able to make one explode. I'm not saying you can't, I'm just saying I've never done it. From here, we need to get our powder thrower machine here. Need to get, and I've got a powder thrower. There's Hornaday's powder thrower. That's an automatic powder thrower. You put your casing down here, run it up, run it down. Again, that's not precision enough for me. It works okay. I still use my good old-fashioned scale here. So the first thing we have to do is level our scale. I do this every time I intend on loading a bullet. The first thing I'll do is get my scale where I need it. It's always good to check your scale no matter what. With my little loading table I've got here, I've kind of managed to get it where if you don't have it sitting at just the right angle, I end up where the tray will touch the bottom. Will bottom out here when it's not supposed to, so I've got to kind of get this at the proper angle. These are grain marks. These up here are full grains, back here 1/10 of a grain. This one will load 505 grains. If you're loading 505 grain bullet, I'd love to know what you're loading, or a powder in a bullet. I'd love to know what it is. These little scales, and this one's made by RCBS. I'm sure I'll have people tell me this isn't the greatest scale in the world, and that's fine. I'm not all that interested. It sure works just fine for me. One thing you need to watch, like here's my level mark. Whatever level you're going to have your head when you're loading, if you change the level of your head, you're going to change the way you actually see your machine here. So it's important that wherever you set up level is what you're going to see, what you're going to actually visually be looking at every time. That way you don't over level, or you get down here like right now it looks like it's 1/8 of an inch off, but with my head up at the height I normally do this at, it's perfect. So that's what we're going to look at. We'll press down on it and make sure I've got over travel, because I do worry about getting precision. Like I said, I'm going to run 22 grains of N1350, or I'm sorry, N135. So each one of these is each one of these marks is 5 grains. So that's 5, 10, 15, 20, and 22. So that right there is 22 grains. I always kind of shake my deals, make sure they're in place. Pull out our powder. These little scoops that come with your actual die sets work real good for making sure you have, they're right about accurate for what you need. Each one, like this one that came with the Lee's 223 die, is 1.6 cc's, and it's always real close as far as the amount of powder. They say you can take these in a pinch and throw them in there and they're close enough. I normally pour out a little powder into some kind of tray. One thing I like about Lapua's powder, Lapua is the name and accuracy and precision obviously, but one thing I really like about Lapua's powder is the size of the grains. Contrary to popular belief, each grain of powder is not a grain as you're loading. or even a tenth or whatever. It varies from powder to powder. It'll vary from manufacturer to manufacturer. But I'll sit and I'll dump a little powder in there until my scale starts to move. Then I'll trickle a little bit more in there. And when I get my scale to the exact point I want it, pull out your little funnel here, put it in a casing, and dump powder. Give her a little tap. Now I think it's extremely important from here that you don't do anything else until you put a bullet on that casing. And let me tell you why. There is more than adequate space in here to double charge that round. There's more than adequate amount of space in that casing to get twice the amount of powder. So from here, I will not excuse me, I will not go any further until I actually put a bullet on that specific casing, so I know that I don't double charge it. So this is, I got a second press here on my bench. This is my bullet seat die. Again, you need to run your die down until when it comes up, your bullet seat just touches it. This one's running a little bit low, but it needs to. You need to have a full stroke, no matter what you do on your arm. That way, you know you're not half seating bullets or whatever. Need to get a micrometer. You need to be able to mic. This is actually a caliper. I'm sorry. You need to get a caliper so you can actually run your check each bullet. One of the easy ways to do this, to make sure that you're getting the proper seat. Let me go get some loaded bullets. I load all my stuff on stripper clips, Army stripper clips. That's how I pack them in the ammo cans when I do them. So these specific ones here are 2.258. 2.255, which is actually the length I try to get. It's 2.255. And that's actually exactly what that one is. So that's our desired length, is 2.255. Now this die here is going to be set up where I could probably just throw it in there and hammer it in. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to back it off a turn. That way I can seat this bullet until I get exactly where I need to be. And then I'll know this was set up, because you don't know if it was bumped while it was in the case or whatever. So we're going to put our bullet, just going to set our bullet in here, line it up. I actually will do that once I get on here. Run the full stroke to the bottom of the press. Take our mic, and right now we have 2.3110. So I'll give it a little bit of a turn and run it a full stroke again, and it'll seat it just a little bit deeper. Excuse me. Now I'm right at 2.3. Give it another turn. This might have been a little much. 2.290. Give it another little turn. .78. Give it another little turn. Alright, now I'm at 2.65, so I'm not going to quite go just as much. Alright, now I'm at 2.5, and when you get real close I check it 4 or 5 times, because if you got the bullet just in there at a little angle, you can change it. See, now I'm at 2.5, 2.57. So I'm just going to give this a little bump. And now you can see I'm at 2.55. If you can see it, but I can see it. 2.55. So got that one done. So now my dye's set up. So I'll go back, throw some more powder in my scale. Give it a couple of bumps till I get to 0 here. That is perfect. Take another casing. Take my powder deal, dump that in there. And like I said, when you're loading, load one. When you get to where you're putting powder and bullets, one at a time. So I'll put that in there. Run that bullet up. Check this one for ensure I'm right. And it's right on again. There's 2. When I get in the zone and I get music going this way, no, I've never really timed myself. I can probably do in the neighborhood of 100 an hour, I'm gonna guess. That's actually loading, that's not going through. I'll deprime all the casings and reprime all the casings I have, all in a stage. Like a lot of times I'll deprime 500 rounds in a night or 1,000. And then I'll sit down the next day and I'll just go through and I'll prime 1,000 rounds. Oops, went a little too far. So when I get a little too far, I just scoop a little bit out, give it a chance to settle down, and then dump some more back in there. So I'll sit down and like I said, I'll clean brass as I get it and bag it up. And then I'll sit down one night and I'll deprime a bunch, and then I'll sit down the next night and reprime it. And then when I get in the loading mood, I'll actually sit down and load these all up. I prefer this round I run it through every AR I have. I get great grouping, sub MOA on everything. From my 10-inch barrel guns to my 26-inch barrel guns. So you might try that round if you're loading. But that's how I single stage load. And it doesn't matter if it's 223, 9mm, 45, doesn't matter what it is. You can get online to Hornady's website and really use whatever you got and get all the load data you would ever need. You can buy Hornady's loading manual, big thick book, which I have laying around here somewhere. I just don't know where it is. But you can honestly get all these loads and stuff from Hornady's website. You can get loads from Lapua's website. You can get it. If you can go to anybody's website, and you can get plenty of load data for what you want to do. It's important that if you're not using your powder that moment, put it back in the deal. These keep it from getting a little bit of moisture. We just got our only snowstorm so far. It's February 10th, 12th, somewhere in there, and we just got our only snowstorm we've had in Oklahoma this year, which I'm not arguing that point. It's kind of handy. I only have one snowstorm a year. I was born and raised in northwest Pennsylvania and saw my fair share of snow. But any questions or comments, or if you got something else you do, I figured this out for myself, by myself. If there's something that I'm missing or something that you think I ought to be doing or want to know why I do what I do, I appreciate questions and comments. If you like it, I appreciate a little thumbs up like thing there. That helps me get out onto cyberspace and people watching my videos. I appreciate it, and thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.